A 9-year-old girl posted her dead father's guitar for sale online. $100. And the man who saw that listing changed her life forever. Most people scroll past things like that. A used guitar, a sad little description, some blurry photo taken on a kitchen floor. Nobody stops. Nobody cares. But one person did. And that one person happened to be one of the most famous rock stars who ever lived. This is the story of little Emma. And this is the story of what one act of kindness from a rock legend does to a broken family that has nothing left but memories. Emma Carroll was 9 years old when her dad died. His name was Ray Carroll. He was 37 years old, worked a regular job at a warehouse in Ohio, drove a beat-up pickup truck, and had one great love in his life besides his daughter, a black Gibson Les Paul guitar that had seen better days. Ray wasn't famous. He never played on a big stage. He never got a record deal. He was just a guy who loved music the way some people love breathing, like he couldn't survive without it. Every Friday night, after a long week at work, Ray would sit on the back porch with that guitar and play. Sometimes he'd play old rock songs. Sometimes he'd make up his own. Emma would sit right there next to him on that wooden porch floor, wrapped in a blanket, listening to every single note. That guitar wasn't just a guitar to Emma. It was her dad's voice. It was Friday nights. It was safety. It was home. Then Ray got sick. It came out of nowhere, the kind of sick that doesn't give you much warning. Within 8 months, Ray Carroll went from playing guitar on a Friday night to not being able to get out of bed. Emma's mom, Carol, did everything she could. She picked up extra shifts. She borrowed money from her sister. She sold things around the house just to keep the lights on. Ray passed away on a Tuesday morning in November. Emma was still asleep when it happened. Carol didn't wake her up right away. She just sat there in that quiet house, holding her husband's hand one last time, already knowing that the hardest part wasn't the grief. It was going to be figuring out how to survive. Because Ray being gone didn't just mean the family lost a father and a husband. It meant they lost their income. Their savings were already gone from the medical bills. Carol was behind on rent by 2 months. The refrigerator was half empty, and Christmas was 6 weeks away. Emma didn't fully understand money. She was 9, but she understood one thing very clearly. Her mom was scared. One afternoon, Emma went into the back room where her dad's things were still kept. His old work boots, a few baseball caps, and the Gibson Les Paul sitting in its case, untouched since the last night Ray played it. Emma sat with that guitar for a long time. Then she did something that would break your heart if you saw it. She carried it to the kitchen table, opened her mom's old laptop, and posted it on Facebook Marketplace. $100. She didn't write much, just a few lines. She said the guitar belonged to her dad. She said he had passed away. She said she wanted to sell it to help her mom with bills. She posted a photo of the guitar leaning against the kitchen wall. That was it. Carol didn't find out until a few hours later. When she saw what Emma had done, she started crying right there in the kitchen. Not because she was upset, just because her 9-year-old daughter had decided that her most precious memory of her father was worth selling if it meant helping the family. That kind of love is almost too big to look at directly. The post sat there for a while. A few people shared it, then a few more. Then someone shared it in a music group. Then someone else shared it somewhere else. And that's when it reached someone named Mike. Mike wasn't famous. He was just a guy who worked in music production in Los Angeles and happened to see the post while scrolling late one night. He read it once. Then he read it again. Then he took a screenshot and sent it to a contact in his phone, someone he had worked with years ago on a project. That contact happened to have a direct line to Ozzy Osbourne's team. Now, Ozzy Osbourne, if you don't know who he is, let me tell you quickly. He is one of the most legendary rock musicians in history, the lead singer of Black Sabbath, a man who has been in rock and roll for over 50 years. He's been called the Prince of Darkness. He's performed in front of hundreds of thousands of people. He has lived a life so wild it became its own TV show. But the thing that most people don't talk about, the thing that doesn't make the headlines, is that Ozzy Osbourne is also a man who has been through serious loss, serious pain, serious illness. In his later years, Ozzy has spoken openly about how much he values real human connection, how the rock star image is just an image, and how, underneath all of it, he's just a man who loves music and understands what it means when music is tied to someone you love and lost. When the screenshot of Emma's post reached Ozzy's team, it didn't get filtered out like most things do. Someone on that team actually read it. Really read it. And they brought it directly to Ozzy. According to people close to the situation, Ozzy's reaction was quiet. He didn't make a big speech. He didn't call a press conference. He just looked at the post, looked at the photo of that old black guitar, and said, "Find them." Carol got a phone call a few days later. She almost didn't pick up because it was an unknown number. She let it ring, then picked up at the last second. The person on the other end introduced themselves as a representative for Ozzy Osbourne and asked if she was the mother of Emma Carroll. Carol thought it was a prank. She actually laughed a little on the phone and said, "I'm sorry, who?" It wasn't a prank. Within 48 hours, a package arrived at Emma and Carol's house. It was a large box, carefully packed. Inside was the Gibson Les Paul, the same one Emma had listed for $100. Nobody had bought it. Ozzy's team had simply asked Carol to take the listing down, and then they sent the guitar back. But that wasn't all. Underneath the guitar was an envelope. Inside the envelope was a letter, handwritten, in Ozzy Osbourne's actual handwriting. The letter didn't say much, and honestly, the fact that it didn't say much is exactly what made it so powerful. Ozzy didn't write paragraphs of advice or life lessons. He wrote that he had lost people he loved too. He wrote that music was the one thing that kept him going when nothing else could. He wrote that Emma's dad sounded like a man who really knew how to love his daughter. And he told Emma, "Don't ever sell this guitar. Play it. Learn it. Let your dad speak through it." Then he signed his name. But there was something else in that envelope. A check. A real, actual check made out to Carol. For an amount large. Enough to cover 6 months of rent. And get the family back on stable ground. No cameras. No press release. No social media post from Ozzy saying, "Look what I did." Nothing. Carol sat at that kitchen table and couldn't speak for almost 5 minutes. Emma was standing next to her. Not fully understanding everything, but understanding enough. She looked at her mom and said, "Is Daddy's guitar staying?" Carol pulled her in and held her tight and said yes. Daddy's guitar is staying. Here's what happened after, and why this story didn't end there. Word got out eventually, the way things always do. Someone who knew someone mentioned it. A local news station in Ohio picked it up. Then it hit the internet properly, and the response was enormous. Not because people were shocked that a celebrity gave money to someone, but because of how it was done. Because Ozzy Osbourne, a man who could have had his team write a check and move on, actually wrote that letter himself, by hand. He took the time to sit down and think about what a 9-year-old girl who just lost her dad needed to hear. And then he wrote it. People in the comments talked about their own dads, their own losses, their own guitars and old tools and worn-out things that carry the weight of someone who isn't there anymore. The post got shared hundreds of thousands of times. But what really got people was Emma's own reaction when a local reporter asked her what she thought of Ozzy Osbourne. She said, "I don't really know his music yet, but my dad probably did, so I'm going to learn it." If that doesn't hit you somewhere deep, I don't know what will. There's something bigger inside this story that I want you to sit with for a second. Emma wasn't looking for a miracle. She wasn't posting that listing to go viral. She was a 9-year-old who saw her mom struggling and thought, maybe this one thing I have can fix it. That level of love, at that age, is rare. Most grown adults don't love like that. And Ozzy, he didn't have to do anything. Nobody would have blamed him for scrolling past. He's an old man with health problems of his own. He's been through Parkinson's disease. He's had surgeries and setbacks that would have finished most people. His own life is not simple. But he stopped. He saw a kid trying to sell the last piece of her father for $100, and he stopped. There's a lesson in that. Not a preachy one, just a real one. You never know what one moment of actually paying attention does to someone else's life. Ray Carroll never met Ozzy Osbourne, but his daughter did, through a letter, through a check, through a guitar that came back home. And now Emma Carroll is 10 years old, and she's learning guitar. Her mom signed her up for lessons. She practices on Friday nights, the same night Ray used to play on the back porch. The guitar still has a small scratch on the body from years ago. Carroll said Ray used to joke that the scratch gave it character. Emma never covers it. She says it's her favorite part. Ray Carroll lived a regular life. He drove a regular truck, worked a regular job, and loved his daughter in all the ordinary, daily, invisible ways that regular dads do. He never became famous. He never recorded a song that anyone outside his back porch ever heard. But his 9-year-old daughter picked up his guitar and refused to let it disappear. And that act of love, so quiet, so small, $100 listing on a used stuff website, somehow, reached one of the loudest, most famous musicians on the planet. And that musician looked at it and recognized something. Not celebrity, not opportunity, just love. Just a little girl missing her dad. Ozzy Osbourne has sold out stadiums. He has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He has a career that spans 5 decades. But I'd be willing to bet that the best thing he did in the last 10 years was write that letter to Emma Carroll. Some things cost nothing and mean everything. And somewhere in Ohio, on a Friday night, a little girl is sitting on a back porch with her late father's guitar, learning the first few chords, getting the notes wrong, trying again. And if you listen closely, it almost sounds like Ray is still out there, playing.